Anybody remember the 4 Souls Kickstarters? I mean, I do. I definitely do. Hell, I wasn't around for base, but Requiem's Kickstarter was some of the most fun I have ever had in a community event. I remember getting a notification on my phone while I worked at Domino's. I would duck into the back and check out what new thing got revealed. Just, what a good time. Thankfully, from what we can gather, it won't be the last expansion or Kickstarter we get. In this video, I'm going to be talking about things we are likely to see, things we're gonna see, things I want to see, and more kind of stuff like that. Think of this as a list of half genuine, informed predictions and half my personal wish list. With that out of the way, let us begin. First, let's talk about how big this expansion is probably going to be. After Requiem shot 4 souls into orbit, I'm expecting something bigger than Plus, but smaller than Requiem. If I had to make a guess, I would say around 150 cards total. Again, I'm just kind of eyeballing here. What I'm sure you're all dying to know is what might be included in this hypothetical expansion, but I do have some bad news for it. The characters, barring any warp zones, are gonna be lame. Or at least I think they might. See, the last mini expansion we got was 4 Souls Plus, which included 3 characters who were based on transformations, and Bumbo just for kicks. I don't know exactly what they'll do, but I am almost certain that if Ed goes this route, we'll be seeing Bob as a playable character. The other transformations that might be added are debatable, but me personally, I am holding out hope for a little something different in terms of characters. The Bumbos. There's like 4 or so left that Ed hasn't put in the game, and I would kill to have these be the characters added in place of transformations. Most of the transformations we have left are honestly pretty boring design-wise, so I would love to see some more unique character concepts. One last prediction in terms of characters, and I think this one's almost a guarantee. Like, I would be shocked if this or some related card didn't make it in, a Mugenics-themed character. For those who are unaware, Mugenics is the game Edmund is currently working on, and from what I have seen, it's shaping up to be his biggest hit yet. I am 100% positive we will see at least a Mugenics-themed card at some point, even if it's not a character. But I do think a character is quite likely, whether it be the Doctor or a cat themselves. Moving on to loot cards, we might see loot cards. You'd be surprised, but I'm pretty sure I know what loot cards are going to get in next, and as much as I would prefer loot cards of a different theme, I cannot deny that reverse turrets are the most likely addition coming to 4 Souls. I had some tweets of Ed saying that they're likely, but I just straight up cannot find them, so if anyone has some proof of this, please let me know. I swear I remember him saying reverse turrets are an idea he's been thinking about. If it were up to me, I would love to see the Soul Stones from Repentance be added. I mean, come on, these are just really good looking. I think it'd be awesome if we got some high definition art of these, don't you? Other than the reverse turrets or those Soul Stones, I would expect another loot card using the ambush mechanic. Maybe Ed could retool certain minions into these, like Brother Bobby and Sister Maggie. Greed Bud is the only card that uses this mechanic, and I'd be really surprised if things stayed that way. Up and onward to items, and I gotta say it, right now, I got nothing. I haven't a clue what items could be added in a new expansion, as Ed hasn't discussed this or anything to its effect yet to my knowledge. I mean, I have ideas, we all have ideas, but we just don't know what we could get on this front yet. Whatever it is, I'm sure it's gonna be awesome though. As for monsters, and here's where the real meat comes in, I think we can safely say that Dangle is just confirmed. It's in the effect text of another card, it kinda has to be added at some point, although it'd be pretty funny if it never was. Another monster I think is almost certainly getting in is Blue Baby. It's the only mega boss that has not yet been added, and Ed has softly confirmed it on Twitter that eventually it will get in, so yeah, Blue Baby fans rejoice. In terms of other monsters, I took a look at the Isaac wiki just to see what iconic enemies have not made it in yet. This is a surprising absence, given that they are iconic for terrorizing new players and multiplayer games with their screen-wide death beam. Some other enemies I could see getting in include the Bishop, One Tooth, Heart and Mask, Baby, and by extension, Holy Baby, and for some reason, Mulligul. I feel like they would get it, not sure why. Maybe I just really like their design, maybe I'm hoping for it, who knows. As for bosses, I have a feeling that Colostomia is getting in. She's featured in the card art for Boss Rush, and I feel like her design is just well liked enough to get in. Another boss I'm expecting is Reap Creep. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this guy, but when I see this thing, I'm always thinking this would be amazing as a 3-3-1, and each time it took damage, it does some neat little swap effect, you know what I'm saying? I bet you can see it. I'd also love to see the Horny Boys get added, and not just because of their name. I genuinely like these guys' design, and I think it'd be awesome to see them in 4 Souls. Again, they could have some sort of swap on damage effect, like you hit them once, now it's this guy's side to attack, you know, something like that. I think all these enemies and bosses could have some really interesting effects, but now we're going to move on to rooms. On the subject of rooms, Great Gideon is just probably going to happen. It's a perfect challenge room card. It would totally get in if another expansion is made. Crane Game is another room card I think might get in. Paying around 3 to 5 cents for a chance of getting an item just sounds like it would work as a filler room card. Maybe it would allow you to choose an item from the shop to get, kind of like how you can see what's inside the machine in game. It would probably discard itself after a certain amount of plays though, kind of like in the game too. A confessional is another cool card we could get. Maybe you could pay some cents to remove a curse from a player, or roll for some cool angelic themed effect, It could give you damage prevention, or maybe some loot, kind of little stuff like that. Maybe you could have really strong effects, but you have to pay health to make it work. That could be pretty cool to see. We also might see a Shadow of Pestilence and Shadow of Death room to complete the set already begun by Shadow of Famine and Shadow of War. I would say if a set is incomplete like this, continuation is pretty likely. Alright, this is weird. I could have sworn this card already exists, but apparently there isn't a devil version of the Shell Game. The Hell Game would be a nice, risky addition to the room deck, and would also probably be pretty easy to make. Just edit the art of Shell Game for a little bit, and yay! It's also kind of amazing there isn't a Curse Room card yet. I feel like that's another no-brainer, but what do I know? Maybe you could choose to take 1 damage for a chance of a benefit at the start of each turn. A little bit like, what's his name? Dark Bum? Yeah, that could be interesting. Okay, I know I've listed a lot of rooms, but I got one more. Rotten Beggar. Maybe you could exploit him to draw loot cards from the discard on occasion, kind of like that compost item. Maybe if you pay him money and you roll a 6, it could grab you a treasure from the discard pile. Since they're both rotting and stuff, I think it would definitely fit super well. This is probably what you've been waiting for. More warp zones. I think it's definitely possible we could get some more, and I know we'd all love to see them. Before I talk about some new warp zones, I do think some existing warp zones have a chance of returning. The Legend of Bumbo, in my opinion, got totally shafted in the first warp zone. Just one character? Come on. I've already talked about characters, but there are a number of items and especially unique bosses that could work super well in the context of Four Souls. I could see bosses like Gibbs, Sangre, and especially Loaf making their way into the game in the form of monster cards. With such unique designs, it would be a shame not to. Alright, I'm gonna preface this. I do not know too much about Don't Starve, but what I do know is this. There is an expansive world of content to pick from in terms of characters, items, bosses, and so much more. But the fact that all they got to represent themselves in Requiem was a lackluster event card, oh, now that hurts. They definitely deserve a redo. In terms of characters, I would say Weber is the most likely pick. He's been in collabs before, and maybe he could have some kind of ability that takes advantage of the monster deck, kind of like how he can befriend spiders in game. With those two out of the way, time for my new Warp Zone predictions. Right out of the gate, I was shocked and appalled this was not part of Requiem. This game was a perfect fit for a Four Souls feature, given that it's also a dark and gritty card game. That game is, of course, Inscription. Inscription has so many opportunities for crossovers, with numerous items, characters, and bosses to choose from. Items such as the Pliers or Hook could definitely make it in, along with monsters like Mantis God or the Prospector. We could even see events like the Fireplace, Mycologist, or Goopert in the room deck. Just so many events and possibilities are present for crossover. I could definitely see its most beloved character, PO3, making it into the card game's wonderful roster of characters. Maybe he could bring his energy mechanic with him, slowly becoming more powerful with time. I used to think this expansion was kinda unlikely, but after playing Pony Island, a game made by the same developer, I noticed a huge Binding of Isaac reference via an Easter egg. With that, I could definitely see an Inscription crossover happening. A crossover I would bet my life on, however, goes to Cult of the Lamb. I began playing it to do some research for this specific video, and honestly, I think it's pretty fun. I think some of its bosses like Leshy could certainly get added to the game, and maybe we could get even the man himself as a playable character. The reason I think this Warp Zone in particular is so likely is not only does Binding of Isaac and Cult of the Lamb have similar themes in terms of gameplay, they also hold similar themes in terms of world building, like satanic stuff and whatnot. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I'm almost certain Cult of the Lamb will eventually get a Four Souls crossover. Taking a break from actual focus predictions for a moment, I have to state that if this expansion is big enough, or even if it isn't, we will get some crossovers about currently trending topics. For example, if we were in the middle of a Kickstarter right now, I would bet you we would see a crossover with Lethal Company. These trending crossovers might be cool, they might not, but I can guarantee you they will probably not age too well. Among Us. Another crossover I could see worming its way into Four Souls is Terraria. Terraria has not only done a crossover or two, but has an endless amount of bosses, items, characters, and mechanics that would blend so well with Four Souls. They also have a tabletop game coming out, heightening this chance. We could see iconic bosses like King Slime or Skeletron as monster cards, items like the expert mode drops of the Mini Shark, and I even think it's possible to get a character in form of one of the many NPCs. Alright, with this one, everyone has told me this has a good chance of happening, that it's going to happen. Some people I know are even betting on it, but somehow I just can't quite see it, and that thing is a Pizza Tower crossover. Look, I love Pizza Tower. It's the best platformer I've played in years, and yes, seeing some bosses like Pepperman or The Noise would be a blast, but somehow I have trouble seeing the vision. Don't let me drag down your expectations, however. If you want a Pizza Tower crossover in Four Souls, sing it from the rooftops and make sure people know when the time comes. It is quite a popular series. Well, that about finishes things. Thanks for watching my little Four Souls predictions wish list, and remember to like and subscribe for some, cool new stuff. Got some neat things I'll be doing, and I bet you'll enjoy it, so subscribe.